The Basilica of the Sagrada Familia, better known as the Sagrada Familia, is a Catholic minor basilica located in Barcelona. The story of this masterpiece still under construction began in 1874, when a local organization began campaigning for the construction of a church in honor of the Holy Family. After a couple of years of planning and drawing up plans, the first stone of the church was officially laid on March 19, 1882. This still incomplete 19th-century church is an architectural marvel and has been declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. Read on to find out more about the history of this wonderful basilica. Although the authorship of the Sagrada Familia is attributed to Antoni Gaudí, the basilica was actually an idea of the founder of the Spiritual Association of Devotees of San Juan, Josep Maria Boccabella. After his visit to Italy in 1872, he wanted to build a church inspired by the Basilica of Loreto. The architect Francisco de Paula del Villar was commissioned to design the church, and its design followed a neo-Gothic style. In March 1882, construction began on the crypt of the church's apse. Later, in 1883, Antoni Gaudí took responsibility for the construction and radically changed the plan of the church. The following year he was officially named chief architect. During this period, work on the Nativity facade had already begun. When Gaudí died, quite unexpectedly, in 1926, only 20% of the work had been completed, with the completion of the San Bernabé bell tower. After his death, the work was taken over by his disciple Dominique Sugranyes i Gras until the Civil War of 1936. During the riots, the Catalan anarchists destroyed many original plans, models and workshops. Work did not resume until after the Civil War, so a current new design was created based on reconstructed versions of the destroyed plans along with modern adaptations. Starting in 1940, the works on the basilica changed hands several times. The architects Francisc Quintana, Isidre Puig Boda, Luis Bonet i Gari and Francisc Cardoner continued the works. In 1952 the staircase of the Nativity facade was built, and 2 years later the foundations of the Passion facade were laid. In 1961 a museum was created to publicize the different aspects of the basilica. In 1976 the bell towers of the Passion facade were completed and, 2 years later, work began on the facades of the side naves. Work began on the naves, columns, vaults and facades of the main nave, transept and apse in 1986. During this construction period, several elements were added to this basilica thanks to computer-assisted technology introduced by Jordi Bonet i Armengol. In 2005, the Nativity facade and the crypt were declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, and in 2010, the temple was consecrated by Pope Benedict XVI, officially turning it into a minor basilica and opening it to religious worship. The vault of the central nave was finished in the year 2000 and attention was focused on the construction of the transept and the apse. In 2012, Jordi Fowley i Oyer took over as chief architect of the project and, in 2015, announced that 70% of the construction had been completed. The final phase of the construction included the raising of 6 bell towers. Since July 2017, an international Mass has been celebrated in the basilica every Sunday. While the church has been in operation, various events have halted the progress of its construction. On April 19, 2011, an arsonist started a small fire in the sacristy, which took 45 minutes to put out. The pandemic halted the works for 4 months between March and July 2020. Despite these problems, on November 29, 2021, a 7-meter, 12-point illuminated crystal star was installed on top of the Maria Tower. The glorious architecture of the Sagrada Familia draws influences from the European Spanish Gothic, Catalan modernism and Art Nouveau styles. According to the plan, 18 spears over 100 meters high are foreseen, each of which represents the 12 apostles, the 4 evangelists, the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ. However, only 9 of the 18 planned have been carried out. These needles form the 3 large facades, the Nativity to the east, the Passion to the west and the Glory to the south. The sculptures and engravings on these facades are enhanced by the canopy effect that the exterior creates, thanks to the lush natural vegetation. The plan of the church is in the shape of a Latin cross with 5 naves. The vaults of the central nave are 45 meters high, while those of the side naves are 30 meters. The interior has columns that rise in the shape of a horseshoe. The transept is supported by 4 central columns that support a huge hyperboloid structure with 12 complementary hyperboles around it. The geometric intersections allow the visitor, located at the entrance, to have a good view of the naves, the transept and the apse. Hollows in the floor of the apse allow the visitor to see the crypt below. The precision and intricacy of the design stand out and leave one in awe. In 2022, 140 years after construction began on the Sagrada Familia, the construction of the basilica is still underway. According to current estimates, the bell towers and most of the structure of the temple will be finished in 2026, while the decorative elements will not be completed until 2030 or 2032. Despite being unfinished, the Sagrada Familia has earned its prestige thanks to the grandiose vision that Gaudí had for the basilica and thanks to the work that went into its construction. Today, the basilica is a minor basilica, meaning a working Catholic church, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and one of the city's most popular attractions. Although opinions about the design have been polarized, with some calling it a masterpiece and others, such as George Orwell, calling it one of the most hideous buildings in the world, the fact that it attracts between 4 and 5 million visitors a year is an example of its power of fascination.